The entire contents of this podcast and website are based upon the opinions of Tammy Garcia and her guests, unless otherwise noted. The information on this podcast is not intended to replace a one-on-one relationship with a qualified healthcare professional and is not intended as medical advice. It is intended as a sharing of knowledge and information from the research and experience of Tammy Garcia and her guests. This is the Naturally Inspired Podcast, coming to you from our 1890 homestead in Johnstown, Colorado. I'm Tammy, and I want to thank you for joining us. Let's get started and help people feel good so they can do what they love for longer. Today on the Naturally Inspired Podcast, Christi Sullivan is joining us. Christi is a skilled level 4 Czech practitioner, a holistic lifestyle coach, and a P-DTR practitioner. Christi has a bachelor's in exercise physiology, an associate's of arts in physical education, and she is the founder of Loveland Yoga and Core Fitness. She is also a Czech holistic lifestyle coach level 3, an FMA Strength Coach level 2, and she works with metabolic typing and uses intuitive eating to help her clients. Please welcome Christi Sullivan to the Naturally Inspired Podcast. Well, thank you so much for being on the Naturally Inspired Podcast again, Christi. I'm so happy to have you because last time we got to talk, we talked a lot about P-DTR, which was awesome, but you are multifaceted. You have so many talents.
Yeah, I do. And they're all interrelated too. So it's definitely not, I'm doing 10 literal different things. They all, they all intertwine with each other somehow, some way, since it all deals with human movement. And then of course, human movement goes deeper than just bones, ligaments, and joints. You know, of course, we've got organs and nerves and all that, where, you know, we do, you know, that mind, body, spirit, you know, it's like, I do end up focusing and emphasizing the physical, of course, because that's how we are running around on Earth.
Right,
We're physical.
In a big meat suit.
Big meat suit, absolutely. And so that's where obviously I'll spend a lot of my time. And of course, there's physical reasons why people have their pain, and then there's going to be chronic pain or pain we're having difficulty resolving that have maybe a bit more deeper, maybe it's nutrition, and which is a part of the physical up to, you know, there's, I don't want to say up to a degree, but to a degree, you know, and then of course there's emotional reasons why we're choosing food, and there's mental reasons why we're choosing food, and such, which then get, the body takes and it becomes a part of the body. So some people really kind of get this idea about food that it's just about fuel. It's just going to the gas station, putting in some gas, and then just going. Everything that we put into our mouth, the body has to break down and it becomes a part of us.
Right. I love that you have so many facets because you have so many tools to help your clients with. And I love that because there isn't one path for everybody.
It's about building a toolbox.
Yes.
And you grab the right tool for the right job.
Right.
So you
have a lot of tools, which is, you know, makes you really knowledgeable with getting people
and I want to
through
give you guys lots of tools too, because it's not about it's not about just doing yoga. It's not about just eating a particular way. It's not about, because the body is ever changing. You know, we learn, we grow, we kind of feel stable, like everything, oh, good. And then, you know, something happens and so now we can deal with it better maybe and stuff. And so, but that tool that worked for the previous issue isn't really working for this issue. And some people get really frustrated, like it's not a valid tool anymore. And it's like, well, it's just not really appropriate for what's going on. And you just need to, that's why there's so much out there.
Right.
All that stuff's good. And again, it's just like, that's what I need to do. And it maybe only works for, maybe it's only a day, maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month, maybe it's a year and stuff, but it's about paying attention.
Absolutely. I think one thing I've noticed since I hit my 40s, I used to be all about running because I love running. But And I thought that was good for me at the time, but now I've changed. I've grown and I've gotten older, and now I need muscle.
Yeah.
I need to
Oh
I
yeah.
need to
Runners
work on
need,
preserving my muscle. And so my needs are different, and I think sometimes we don't look at that. We're still treating the same 20, 30-year-old body, which is
yeah, we get really addicted to what we like, and then we get
yes.
attached to what we were, and refuse sometimes to really look at alternate training programs or additions
Right.
or etc. And then before you know it, you have an injury, and now you're completely out. You're just
Right.
completely out of the game
Overuse.
on that
Yeah.
particular thing, and you're just like, one thing this one person had said to me when I used to work at a gym, and we would sit out in front of the racquetball courts and chat, and we were talking about he was talking about we were talking about running, and I don't remember exactly the whole thing, but at the end of the conversation he goes, I just figured I was given so many steps for running, and I used them all up, and I just shifted into something else. And I thought, what a great way to look at that,
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, like I did the same thing. I used to do triathlons and duathlons 20
Uh-huh.
years.
Yeah.
And I was getting to the point where I was doing half Ironmans and such. And, then I opened up my studio, and then things started to shift
Right.
because I had to put a lot more time into that. And then I discovered when I would go out for a formal training, I would end up, my ankle would hurt, my knee would hurt. I really just couldn't, I really didn't know what was going on. And really at the end of the day, I just kind of decided, well, maybe I'm done, because
Yeah.
maybe I did it for 20 years. I did well,
Yeah. Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
I always placed in at least the top 5. And I was
That's
like, yeah,
awesome.
I go, you know what, I'm going to run for fun
Right.
with my dogs.
Yeah.
And I let them kind of dictate what was going on.
Right.
There was a bit of give and take. Like I still had to have some control over the whole
Right.
thing. It was like a moving obstacle course. It
Right.
was a blast, and I never ended up hurt. I ended up going the same distance. I would actually go faster, but I never ended up hurt, because
Interesting.
now my mentality was different. It was about
Right.
play, not, oh, I have to run, And then when I
Right.
would feel good, I mean, it was a couple of trials and errors before I really went, oh no, this needs to be about play. Because then I would do a formal run, and then I would go, oh God, my ankle, my knee, whatever. But then when I do a play,
Oh,
um,
interesting.
yeah, it was interesting. And so I just took those hints, and
Yeah.
you know what, like, I don't want to run. I don't need to run. But if I need to run, I'm still capable of running.
Right.
And because I'm saving what I have left in that knee,
Right.
because it's not bone on bone or anything. It's just I have a big instability at the kneecap,
Right.
and I like my knees.
Yeah.
I'm like everybody else. I don't want to have a knee replacement, but I'm not going to keep going after the same, the same exercise protocols that actually got me into that
Right. You
problem.
recognize the shift and
Yeah, and
accommodated
I
for
just
it.
went, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I do P-DTR, and I've always done specific knee strengthening exercises
Mhm.
and stuff. And so it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, I do, this is where me doing more yoga
Right.
or bar, more low impact type
Right.
of things. I hike more with Louie and such. So it's just more low impact
Yeah.
options.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to get into some of the things that we didn't really get into last time. And the first thing I want to get into is yoga, because you are the founder of Loveland Yoga and Core Fitness,
Yes.
and you've developed a unique program there. But
Yes.
tell me, how did you get into yoga? What was your draw into yoga?
So this was like 20 plus years ago.
Okay.
I was working for my friend Terry Crenshaw. She's the one I showed you the Instagram. She runs the business called CEO
Oh
Media.
yeah, yeah.
I went to high school with her, and then I used to work for her when she'd owned a gym at the time called Millennium, and I was group fitness instructor, and we did spinning and step, and
Yeah.
she goes, well, I think we should probably bring in yoga. I need you to go sort that out, right? And I'm like, yoga? Like,
oh, really?
I was like, 'cause I was kind of like where a lot of people are at when they think yoga. They think that hyper flexibility, you're just trying to get your leg behind your ankle. When you're in a forward fold, you're just trying to get your face to your butt or whatever it is,
right.
just those ridiculous postures. And I was like, okay. So then I started researching.
I love this because I kind of expected, like, I had this come to yoga moment. I was,
I know a lot of people get really surprised,
so
and get even more surprised when I'm like, yoga is not the answer for everything, and blah blah. and yeah, it is really funny on that one. So I'm researching, and I come across somebody that's like they do power yoga, and I was like, oh, what is that? His name's Brian Kess, and if you're in the yoga world, he's a really prominent figure.
Okay.
He's based out in California, and I bought his videos. VHS videos, actually.
Now you're dating us.
I know. Actually, well, because on his Facebook feed, the vintage, they go, who bought and still has the VHS? And you're like, oh my God.
Not me.
I do. I have it on DVD now, but yeah, it was funny. So I grabbed his stuff and I was like, wow. This is awesome. This is hard.
Okay.
I'm getting strength and flexibility, and I feel totally relaxed at the end. So what he did, so there's a limb of yoga called Ashtanga, and that is a very vigorous form of yoga. So there's a primary, secondary, and tertiary series, and in general, the whole thing will each one practice will run an hour and a half to 2 hours, just depends. And this is actually how vinyasa, how we know it in the States, actually kind of spawned off, because the vinyasa itself is the high to low chaturanga, up dog, and then down dog. So that was put into the practice because it was to keep you warm as we got onto the ground. And so it's about warmth and heat.
Right.
And so I was like, oh my God, I really like this. And of course, that's not what I brought into the studio at the time that I was working at. We had brought in somebody who does hatha, which is just the gentler version, which is which is the version, of course, a lot of people need and a lot of people don't want, because it is gentle. And I respectfully say it's boring.
Right.
But there's over 5,000 different styles and types of yoga. Again, it's a toolbox.
Oh, wow. So I didn't know there was that many.
Yeah,
5,000?
You know what? And really there could actually be even more, but then you have your two main ones, which are actually hatha and Ashtanga, and then Kundalini is in there, which brings a whole new dynamic into the whole thing, which this is where you see, there's people think yoga is about slow breathing and moving super slow. That's because they've never experienced Kundalini. Kundalini can be really fast, cardio expressive, very challenging. But the whole concept is mindfulness of the breath. Right. Okay. So, and then of course you have Ashtanga, which moves slower, and it just depends on with Kundalini, and I'm blanking on Kriyas. They have different Kriyas which do different things. Some are slow, some are fast, some are in between.
And Kriyas are
kind of like sequences. Here's our
sequences of breath.
Yes, and movements that go with it. I'm not I don't have a big background in Kundalini. I just know enough. Right. Yeah, I just know enough. That is, it's a really cool experience. It's a really nice expression of it. And then, of course, then there's Ashtanga, which is more vigorous, more controlled. You could say more militant in a sense. And then you have Hatha, which is, you're going to do a move, you stop and rest, you go into the next move, you stop and rest. And so a lot of yogas have branched off of those. So you've got restorative and yin and gentle. And of course, then you've got vinyasas like power and mind, which I call strength yoga, and etc. So I then just played around with that power yoga for years and this is while I lived in Cheyenne.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved down here and in Loveland, really kind of, as far as the gym or whatever, I didn't really give it too much of a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Then
what was it that had you hooked to it when you said, "Oh, this is awesome"? What was it that served you? Was it something that served you physically?
You got strength, flexibility, and that relaxation state
all in one.
All in one.
Got it.
Yeah, you got it all in one. And that's actually what got me hooked. And I only ended up doing it, let's say, and I do remember this very vividly. I did it once and didn't think too much of it. And the next day I had never been so sore, ever.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. And I'm just sitting here going, oh my God, this is all I did. Now I'm like just moving into this world. So I'm like, not just the yoga world, but the physical world for personal training, all that.
Right.
All that. And then I really kind of had to wait like a week before I could do it again. And you know what? I had more strength and I had more flexibility.
Interesting.
And I wasn't I wasn't trying to have more flexibility or strength or what have you. Even just after a week, I was like, and then you had a week rest and you're like, this is incredible because while I've been lifting and running, it's a different response. Sorry for the barking.
Interesting.
So,
that's okay.
And so
that means you're a real person with a real dog.
Yes. And they're trying to play because it's cold, running in and out. And Holly, shh. And Louie's trying to. So then I just kind of left it as my. I left it kind of more on my own practice until I went to another gym because, she had left and it was very successful. And then I moved to Loveland and I just left it for me at home.
Right.
And then when I started, I just kind of forgot about it oddly, because, the rest of your life gets in the way, because I moved into a new place and then after a few years I get divorced and so that that changes everything, of course, that whole realm. And then a friend of mine just decided, hey, let's go do a yoga class, and this is up in Fort Collins. And I went, oh gosh, I haven't done this in forever. I forgot how much I liked it, and then I just started to get into it again. And then I did, and just what was going on at a particular gym I was working at, for my own journey, it felt like it was time for me to do my own thing because of me. Because of my skills, it's actually I'm pulling out of that gym realm, not that I still can't help people, but it's a different environment that I needed. And I went, I'm really good at getting people out of pain. That was one of the big things that I'm known for, especially at the gym. If they can't get you out, Christi probably can. And if she can't, she could probably direct you somewhere.
Right.
And I went, okay, so yoga is filled with primal movement patterns. I'm really skilled at teaching a group. I need something to support my personal training and anything else that goes with it. I went, I'm going to open up a yoga and a personal training studio. And
nice.
And I just went, okay, well, I started the, organized list, and I'm like, and I told a friend of mine and who's an entrepreneur, and I said, well, I'm sure this will take me at least a year to get this all sorted out. 2 weeks later, he found me a place. I was like,
it was meant to be.
Yeah. And I was like, he goes, you need to jump on this. And I was like, okay, talk about a leap of faith. I just jumped. And I learned a lot I still am learning about running a business. That'll never stop. And then, my yoga, how I present it is evolved over that as well. So I call my stuff strength yoga because I'm bringing in strength and conditioning concepts into the class.
Right.
And of course, my background in biomechanics, human movement, and I've spent a lot of time with some of the other things that I've studied in where we learn about structural anomalies and what this looks like on somebody.
Right.
And so some of the strength and conditioning concepts I apply in class are what power lifters and Olympic lifters use, because they're lifting such heavy weight. And I go, you know what? I have people coming in that can barely move their own body weight. This is the same thing. This is the same thing. I'm going to start teaching them how to spread the floor, spread the mat, and magic starts happening, believe it or not. And it's really cool to watch this. People's bodies instantly getting strong in front of your eyes.
Yeah, this is so interesting because you're really revealing that, because I think some people may stray away from yoga because they think that it's more of a spiritual practice, which
and it can be.
Yeah, it can be, but it doesn't have to be.
No, because and you can't separate that. And so when people come in asking me this, and I go, first and foremost, while I'm running you through physical postures, I have to stay focused on physical movement. You can bring in the rest of your stuff. You're going to bring in your emotional crap and your mental crap, because I'm bringing that crap in with me too, you know.
Right.
We're trying to go, okay, well then, and we're trying to let this come off of us. And I don't really like the word letting go, because letting go means it's done, it's over, I don't have to worry about it anymore. And that's not true. It is, you want to transmute that anger, that resentment, that anxiety, that fear. You want to transmute it into what you want. Because remember, energy doesn't disappear.
Right.
It simply changes. So we want to transmute that into love, compassion, joy, what have you. I may state that in the beginning of class, and then I've got the rest of the class has got to be physical.
Right.
But I apply metaphorical concepts into the class all the time. And then as far as the spiritual aspect, go ahead.
The movement can help you work through emotion.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's say you're really stuck on only going to one depth for a lunge or a squat pattern in the yoga class, which would be Utkatasana or a warrior or a crescent pose. And then I may tell you that if you're stuck and dogmatic about that, what are you stuck and dogmatic in other areas in your life that you may need to go, maybe if I just kind of try something different, I'll have new eyes going into this, and my answer may be at the different depths. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, because going deep into a lunge or a squat isn't bad for you.
No.
It's the person coming into it I have to be aware of. Maybe you do.
So someone may be guarded.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And are they guarded in certain positions because of traumas?
They could be.
How does that manifest in your movement?
It depends on the movement. Some people can't get deep into a squat pattern, Utkatasana, because I haven't stretched out hip flexors and quadriceps first.
Okay.
And
so it would just be lack of...
could be just purely physical. And I will always address it there first.
Okay.
For me, I see no reason to jump into emotional or mental right away, because you're in a group setting, and that puts you way too exposed.
Right.
That you have not given me permission for.
Right.
Most people have given me permission for the physical aspect. And so that's where I'll go first. And so it's like, okay, first let's stretch the quads and the hip flexors, because your hip bone and the femur have already have gotten closer to each other. So the reason you can't find depth is because they're already closer to each other and they hit their max already.
Right.
And if I stretch that out and they can find a deeper squat, then we know physically that was the reason.
Right.
So, and that's one of many reasons. So maybe it's
so every pose is going to look different on every person.
Yeah. So when you come to my class, let's see. So if I have 10 people in my class, you will literally see, and I'm glad for this, 10 different variations, not just because for physical reasons, for the mere fact they want to take a different position. I'm like,
right.
I go, first, take a wider
Right.
stance, because nobody does anything in squat position with their legs together. No one.
Right.
No one. I mean, a squat
And that can be
position is about
intimidating.
sitting, and
That can be intimidating
it
for
is.
people
It is. I'm
before
like,
you.
just open up your feet like you're sitting on the toilet, because I go, think about it. Nobody sits on the toilet with their feet together. You can't poop
Right.
that way. The whole idea with your feet together is holding stuff in like an emergency. You're like, crap,
Right.
where's the next exit for the toilet?
Right.
And so that opens people up, because those movements do carry over. A squat pattern is a sitting position that carries over into sitting on the toilet, and it does have an effect on elimination.
Right.
And so when you can correct somebody's squat, you can actually correct if there's
Digestive issues.
Digestive issues, elimination issues, which then in turn will carry over into, hey, I feel better because I can
Right.
poop regularly every day.
Right.
and so
Right.
I have people bring their arms down from Utkatasana, because most people just don't have that arm mobility
Right.
to get the arms up over their head properly.
Right.
And just have them bring it down, and it lets the lat to have an attachment on the pelvis and the shoulder. We come out of it. And
Right.
so we have
So if someone's thinking about taking yoga, I would love for them to take all this information in, because it can be so intimidating, especially with social media and Instagram yogis. You know, they're they're posting.
I know, they're showing all these really, and I know.
And that's great that they're at that level, and that's wonderful. But the reality is that if you go to your local yoga studio, chances are nobody's going to look like that. And
Yeah,
we're
it's
all
pretty rare.
working. Yeah, we're all
it's pretty rare.
working and on a journey to
Usually it's
improve.
like one person in the class. So
Yeah.
I go, everyone who has restricted mobility in these yoga postures, that's like the 99%.
Right.
1% is actually what you see.
Right.
It's like 1%. Like, I mean, I can get into some of those positions, but first of all, it's not important for me to show that to you, because that it's just not important.
Right.
And so it's like, what's important is that you connect with how your body does it.
Right.
You know more about your body in general than I do.
Right.
While I know lots and lots about the body, I
Right.
don't know anything about your body.
Right.
So I watch you, and I'm looking at landmarks, and I'm helping you go, this is really how, let's try this position to see if it feels better. And if it feels better, just play with this one for today.
Right.
And then inevitably it feels better. And if it doesn't feel better, I'll put them right back, because there's something going on within the body that says, no, nope, I don't like it. Yep, I do like it. And I go, this is where you truly get to make these postures your own.
Right.
I remind the class, when you tell your children that it is about being independent, authentic, unique, individual, I go, then why do you come to class and do the complete opposite? Because now you're being
Right.
So now when you come to class and you're trying to do what everybody else is doing, or you're trying to make it look like the book, then you now have contradicted yourself.
Right.
Kids pick up on that.
Right.
People pick up on that. Oh, well, you're doing it. I'm not going to do it now. So we can't help but compare ourselves to other people. That is human nature. That is a part of touching yourself, and then saying, oh, wait, it's about just comparing myself to what I was yesterday and improving upon that.
Right. Is that part of yoga too? Is kind of the experience of it is so humbling, because some of the things that you're asked to do, your body just can't do at that point.
Oh yeah, that's part of the intimidation factor. So when I went through my FMA training, and this is something Mark Buckley did, it's out of Australia, and FMA actually means force equals mass times acceleration. This is about lifting and leverages and such. And we got into orthopedic profiles, and I will state this in class often. What you're seeing in the books is their orthopedic profile. Their body can get into that based off of reference lines that I've been trained on with movement. Right. And I go, you don't hold it.
Right.
So what? So what? I go, you get to write your own yoga book.
Right. And you still get the benefit of
Yeah.
opening up, like you were talking about with the squat, helping with elimination and helping just feeling better. Just because your squat doesn't look like it does in the book doesn't mean you don't get the same benefit.
Exactly. I'm like, have fun with the pose. I'm all about play. One of the reasons is because people do take some of this stuff way too seriously in yoga, in the yoga classes, which that's how they want to do their classes. That's fine. But there's that group of people who want this benefit and they get frustrated with themselves, and then they stop doing the postures. Orthopedically, they cannot get into these postures and they think there's something wrong with them.
Right.
Versus
they get frustrated.
Train wreck.
Yeah.
It's a whole terrible train wreck. And first, people have to realize when we take on something new, we all suck at it.
Yep.
All of us.
Yep.
We're not going to be good at it. I mean, there's going to be, some exceptions in the sense of some people are more athletic than others. And so we pick up things a little bit faster, but it doesn't mean we don't suck at it or whatever.
Right.
But when you learn a brand new skill, it can take as much as 300 to 500 correct repetition for that to become ingrained into the nervous system.
Right.
Finds people
300 to 500.
Yeah. That's practice. That's part of the practice. You want to master the basics, because the basics, squatting, pushing, pulling. I go, everyone here, I know.
That's your foundation, right?
Yeah,
that's your foundation of your practice of yoga.
Exactly. I go, I know everybody here wants to sit down by themselves, especially on the toilet, and get back up. Yes. I know everybody here wants to bend over and tie their own shoes as they get older. I know everyone
for as long as possible. Yeah.
I know everyone wants to be able to get on and off that floor by themselves. So you have to be strong pushing. And so you have to master these basics. Who cares about an arm balance up against the wall or in the middle of the room if you don't have this skill?
Right.
Because you're just going to hurt yourself. You're just going to accelerate joint wear and tear. Is all that's going to happen.
Right.
We master it. And I remind people too, I go, tabletop is an arm balance. Bound dog is is an arm balance. Those are your basics. And we must master the basics. Now, if I have to help you unwind a movement pattern that's deeply ingrained into the system, which is called an engram, that can take as many as 3,000 to 5,000 repetitions, correct ones.
Okay, so like if someone is used to placing, like say they pronate with their feet, if someone's used to just pronating and you're trying to correct that can take how many repetitions?
3,000 to 5,000.
3,000 to 5,000.
Now, if somebody's pronating,
but it's possible.
Yes. Oh, no, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And if somebody's pronating, there's way more to it than that, because that is a weak posterior tib, weak vastus medialis, glute medius, and glute max. And so that's going to run up the chain. So
it's that whole interconnective chain again, right?
Yeah, that interconnective chain.
Your feet look like this, but maybe your problem is your butt.
Yeah, and your compensate. Yeah, and that one would be that one's a fairly complex one that is actually an end result of other things. So this is where I'll use bigger movements like squatting or lunging, push-ups, what have you, and start correcting those for those patterns, because that makes more sense to people than just being. Now I'll do the feet, but we're in the class, we're in the other postures more than just that on standing. Standing gets, the class gets more complex and simple on what I get to present to everybody.
Right.
But when you add play into this and make it fun,
right,
it's 10 to 20 repetitions that you can pick up on it.
Interesting.
And learn it. That's why.
Is that because the pleasure principle? You're having fun.
Yeah, and it's fun.
It's just,
it's fun. And I remind people, I'm like, who cares if you're in the wrong position today? Who cares?
Yeah.
And I said, there's something important about imperfect training, because when you trip or you fall or whatever, you're not going to land on your heel, middle of the toe, or middle of the kneecap, lining up on the second and third toe. It's likely you'll find yourself in a position you're actually not strong in.
Right.
Good to strengthen yourself at multiple depths of squats or lunges or whatever, different stances. You can go wide, you can go in, and I go, at the end of the day, play. and feel. How does this make you feel? We're usually in my class inevitably always laughing.
That's wonderful.
Somebody's always
That's
saying
wonderful.
something to me. They'll ask me a question. I don't care. Because they're trying to learn about themselves on top of it. And me trying to control your movement is not you learning. That is you being told what to do.
Right.
When I go, I will be on you very fast if it's dangerous.
Right.
I will
You're not going to let anybody get hurt.
Faster than you will realize.
Right.
And I go, but at the end of the day, you're trying to develop an intimate relationship between you and your body. And the only way for you to do that is for me to let go of controlling you and you wanting me to parent you.
Right. And what a wonderful invitation to come out to yoga, to know that this is the environment that's there. It's not necessarily this big spiritual awakening. It's not necessarily, you know, some of these things that you may think it is, these perfect poses and whatnot. It really is a place of learning and discovering and trying to correct things.
Which will bring you closer to what your chosen spiritual or religious background is. Right. I do tell people that too. I go, I don't care what your religious background is. I'm not teaching Sunday school. Right. I'm teaching about this. Right. And I'm not Buddhist. I'm not Hindu. My background is Christian. And so I'm like, you could worship the doorknob for all I care. But I want you to bring that in with you because that's actually the most important part. Right. Because I have tons of people with different religious backgrounds. And while they may say namaste and bless you are essentially the same thing. Right. As long as it's love coming from the heart. Yeah. Hey, we did it. It's perfect. Yeah.
I love that.
And a lot of people like that I personally want, so a few years ago, this last Friday, somebody had crashed into my studio. It's all boarded up and somebody
literally crashed with their car into the studio.
Literally, I had a car in my
want to be clear on that.
And somebody felt it was important for them to tell me this happened because I don't do enough spirituality in the studio. And of course, this is her interpretation of spirituality.
Right.
As far as she didn't really come to my class. She came to other people's classes. So I was kind of, which they do this. I don't chant. I don't do that. I might play it in the background as music or whatever. And I just reminded her, I go, it has to be authentic. It has to be coming from the heart. And there's a lot of spirituality happening in the studio, and maybe it just burst it open.
Yeah.
So who knows? But of course, she leaves, and then you start thinking about it, and you let your mind go wacko. And then I started to go, oh my God, am I doing something wrong? Right. And as people came in, I was asking, they're like, oh gosh, no, Christi, we love that you don't do that because it actually makes it more spiritual for what we're bringing in. Right. And I thought, oh wow,
You're free to think your own way.
Exactly. Yeah. So this particular class, I was doing a twisting class, so I started with thoracic mobilizations and such, and then as everybody came up to a seated position, I didn't even cue this. They all come up, their thumb and forefinger, legs crossed, and I then told the story again because not everybody heard the story. And I said, for people who love to sing Om, I said, just sing it in your head. The vibration is the same. It is the same when you do it in your head. If you want to sing Amen, do that, or Hallelujah. If you're Jewish, I don't know what you sing, so whatever that is, please do it. If you're sitting here wondering, what the bleep are you talking about, Christi? And I go, well, then just listen to the music or use the word love or compassion or kindness. I said, it's a vibration. It's a vibration you need today. Whatever that word is, just start saying it. That's your mantra for today. And I'm not kidding. I had so many smiles on people's faces because you get to choose, not me.
Yeah.
And we did class, and it was awesome. And I went,
that's beautiful.
It's about being an individual and encouraging that within that authenticity.
Right. I want to switch gears a little bit. Last time we talked about intuitive eating, and then I got a lot of messages about intuitive eating
Oh,
and
you did?
questions about it. Yeah. Because I think it's something that might be on the fringes out there, but not a lot of people know about it.
Yeah. Okay. So intuitive eating is something I think we all kind of eventually will find ourselves in. Okay. So I do have,
Okay.
I do have a background in, I took nutrition in college, of course, and then at the Tech Institute, do a holistic lifestyle coaching where we get into nutrition. That's how I got onto metabolic typing. Metabolic typing gets a little bit deeper into aspects of your genetics, and then I started to learn about a bit more of the interconnections. So there's a lot of hard science behind all this intuitive eating.
Okay.
And yeah, so at the end of the day, what I discovered with learning all this food stuff,
Mhm.
and people will discover this as well. Like sometimes keto would work for them for a little while, but then they had to go and do a different one that worked for them for a while, had more
Right.
carbohydrates, and then they did
Very
another one that
restrictive.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what's going on is that what you're seeing is that they needed the variety, is what they needed. And
Mm.
the thing is they're not listening to their bodies. Okay. Now,
Okay.
some people can't hear what their bodies are saying
Yeah.
because they're eating too many processed foods. They're eating too much garbage. They're lit, and there is so much out there about food and nutrition.
Oh my goodness, it's overwhelming. And we've
It's
talked about
overwhelming.
it a number of times on the podcast. And I'm trying to narrow it down and give people the information they need, but it is overwhelming. What
It
the
is,
heck do I eat and
yes,
why?
yeah, exactly. And so first, when people start working with me, it's like, okay, you have to do at least 10 days of food logging for me. And that,
Journaling.
yeah,
Yeah.
includes sleep, it's pretty detailed. And you have some other things that you have to fill out for me so I can get some other information so I know how to start helping you. But first and foremost, we have to start switching out a lot of the garbage foods,
Hmm.
but not eliminating your very favorite treat, right? Now,
Okay.
I love Reese's peanut butter cups, and really, who doesn't unless you have a peanut butter allergy? I can understand why you would hate them.
Yeah.
But
My daughter does not like them.
oh, what's the matter with her?
She has peanut allergy.
I know, I'm teasing. And I don't deprive myself of having them, but I don't eat them all day long either.
Right,
Right.
right.
And your body will give you lots of signals. And so it's
Yes.
about teaching it. So some of the food logs that I have you do, we'll talk, there's check marks and such on where we have to start paying attention.
Yeah.
Not paying attention, then you're going to miss a lot of the intuitive signals. And sometimes people will eat something even though their body really doesn't want it.
Well,
Now
that's what I
there's,
was gonna ask. So I know a lot of people will say, professionals will say, well, if you're craving that, like if you crave salt, if you're craving sugar, then that's a bad thing. So how do you distinguish between eating intuitively and like having a craving?
okay, so first you have to ask yourself, why is your body giving you this information about needing more salt that you didn't actually have throughout your diet? Maybe you didn't actually have enough carbohydrates on the food plate. So I wouldn't, and it depends on when people say, oh, they're having a craving. And I said, you need to we have to learn to make the distinction.
Yes.
Are you craving, or is this something your body actually needs from you? Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
because salt, not table salt, but sodium,
Yeah.
is a part of the electrolytes. Okay, so
Right.
your cell, this is where the sodium and the potassium pump starts working, right? And
Right.
so those two are paired, and then calcium and magnesium are paired.
Yeah.
And I always have to, that's the first question I ask my clients. I said, are you sure it's a craving? Maybe it's a need, and the body's stress level is going up and it needs salt. Maybe
Interesting.
the physiological load went up. because you didn't have enough salt. Doesn't mean salty food all the time,
Right.
but maybe it does. So when I was going, it's going to be jumping back and forth because this is how some of this we learned. So when I went through metabolic typing, we went through this massive test, discovered I was more of what's called a fast oxidizer, which means I actually have a higher requirement for salt.
Okay.
Okay, so I will salt my food pretty regularly. Okay, I try to use sea salt. It's not to make my food taste like salt. If I'm trying to do that, then that's probably a craving and not the requirement, as I've discovered. If I'm like, oh no, I want my food to taste like salt, I have a craving problem and I need to back off.
Okay.
And it's hard to, but because you have to mess around with it,
right.
you know, and it's like, oh, okay, well, if I have a sugar craving, what is the sugar I'm craving? Is it a Reese's peanut butter cup?
Right.
Okay, that's refined sugar. And so I have to start thinking about what I've done throughout the day. Is this a stress? I'm burning up a ton of sugar.
Right.
That I need more, that I'm not putting more on. Do I not have enough good complex carbohydrates for the previous meal? Did I not have enough protein for the previous meal? So it gets...
Does the outcome give you clues as to whether you have just filled a craving or you've actually given your body something it needs? Like, say if you are really craving salt and you eat a bunch of it and you feel crappy afterwards, is that an indication that you really didn't need it? Versus
you ate too much. You could have eaten too much. So I'll do this with either Reese's peanut butter cups or peanut butter cookies. It must be a peanut butter issue. I don't know why. So for some reason, I don't generally crave it where I'm like, oh my God, okay. And so if for some reason, like I can walk past all of that stuff in the store.
Yeah.
And if for some reason I'm driving around going, ooh, this sounds really good, I really have to start asking myself, okay, well, why do I want this?
Why do I want
this? Yeah.
Okay.
Why have I not eaten enough? Is this purely just a treat? Or is something emotional coming up for me? And I would rather be in physical pain with a bellyache than to actually start feeling what needs to come up and be addressed and healed. Now, when I tell people this, oh, you think way too much about food. And I go, well, I think you don't think enough about food.
Right.
But I go, this is how I do it. And you don't have to do it that way. But it's really helpful. And I test it out. It's like if I eat it and I feel fine, and I'm not talking about right afterwards. I'm talking about half hour to an hour afterwards, where your body's really had a good chance to really absorb this.
Right.
So if I feel fine after, I'm like, oh, okay, treat, just a treat.
Yeah.
Whatever. If I get a nice little bellyache, it was emotionally driven. And something was just something coming up and I just wanted to bury it and ignore it, especially if I want more than what I allow myself. Yeah.
Right.
I can usually, so if it's the Reese's peanut butter cups, just the two like holiday ones, we'll do it, you know, but if for some reason I have to have more than that and I gobble it up like crazy, it's emotionally driven. And a lot of people are actually like that, but they're
for
not,
sure. I've heard a lot about emotional eating.
Yeah. And it's not that they're not paying attention. This is so deeply ingrained into the nervous system. Before they realized they could have stopped themselves, it's over.
Right.
They've already done it. I mean, it's that quick.
Right. So maybe if we stop before we make the decision to eat and just ask discerning questions, that could be a way, that could be a tactic.
It's a way. It's a way, and then it doesn't go too far out there, because the too far out there, here's where the too far out there is. I've actually taught my body to tell me yes and no as I'm in the grocery store for things in the store. And this includes vegetables, this includes fruit. And it's when you really clean out a lot of processed food, a lot of refined foods, a lot of the sugars and the flours and just stuff that's overly refined, your body starts to heal and becomes healthy. it's more in tuned with all that stuff in the store, and you'll resonate towards it, and people actually do it. Don't
Right.
realize they're doing it. It's like, yeah,
Right.
I just sit there and go, I'm like, if I buy bananas all summer long and then suddenly I don't want bananas, I'm not going to force myself to buy a bunch of bananas that are now going to give me a bellyache and make me miserable.
Right.
And for any food, I will just skip it and go buy food that's in season anyway. That's a
Right.
better option. So I'll
That's
eat
so
more
interesting.
apples.
Do you think that people are overeating or eating things that, aren't good for them or nourishing them because they are more driven towards the feeling they get from the food?
Yeah, that there's that addiction, that adrenaline rush from foods that aren't either good for you and there's chemicals in them
Yeah.
that you're
The
that's
excitotoxins and
stress.
things
Yep,
that make you
yep, yep,
feel a certain way.
exactly.
And if we're actually not addicted to the food, or we don't crave the food, but maybe the feeling that comes from the food.
Yes, yes. So where there's that emotional aspect. So there's what, even though I might emotionally eat, or I can catch myself now from emotionally eating, I don't binge eat. I watched my mom and my sister do that mindless binge eating while they were
Mhm.
reading or watching TV, and it was
Right.
like potato chips and
Right.
M&Ms. And my mom's choice was like really sugary foods and like M&Ms, or she'd make these really weird
Oh, wow.
concoctions.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And my sister's was definitely like potato chips and stuff. And so they're significantly overweight. And so I was like, yeah, I don't want that. And so
Yeah.
I would, when there's that emotional aspect coming up, I just wouldn't eat. And so I'd
Right.
actually have to force myself to eat good foods. And sometimes,
Right.
it wasn't good food. It was candy,
Yeah.
chocolate candy, that type of thing. But still, it would be like a fraction of the nutrients. And that took a lot of work
Right.
when I would get into that emotional roadblock
Mhm.
to choose foods that were better, but still, I'd still eat less, but at least I was choosing better foods.
Right.
And that actually helped me get through it faster in that sense. I mean, there still was the emotions that needed to be worked on, which I
Mhm.
didn't actually know what they were at the time, but
Right.
at least I could do what I could do. So this is where you go, okay, well, I can control this. I can't control this because I don't know what's happening, but at
Right.
least I can control this. And
Right.
let's see how that deals with my mindset and my mood. And I'm sure this will come back around
Right.
to be readdressed.
Yeah. This is
It
a
is
great
hard.
point. Yeah, this is a great point in our conversation to talk about something, body image is what I want to talk to you about, because you have a fantastic body image. You are so confident, and
Oh, thanks.
you're so strong, and that doesn't seem to be an issue for you at all. So I want to talk about that and
I worked
what
through that.
I thought
Yeah.
so. Or maybe I just thought you were lucky and born that way. I don't know. But this is such a huge issue for women, and especially for young girls, and quite honestly, even for boys nowadays, because
Oh my God, some of my clients that were men, oh my God, their body image, you would be surprised.
yeah.
It made my heart break to hear what they said about themselves.
Well, and we're such a visual world now with Instagram and Facebook, and everybody's got their life out there. So it doesn't surprise me that it's kind of hit the male population as well. But it's heartbreaking to see now even young males having kind of the same patterns as girls were having. Instead of, fixing the girls, now it's spread into the boys.
I
Um,
know.
and so I just want your thoughts on it, because you're working with so many different people all the time, all different shapes, sizes, genders, what have you, and your own personal experience. What what is this thing called image? What is it doing to us? And how can we tackle it a little bit?
Yeah, it's it's tough. It's tough because so in high school I had bulimia,
Mhm.
and so definite body image issue, and I wasn't fully connecting with the body image aspect of it. um I had just I just noticed, hey, look, I had the stomach flu and I lost weight. So I put those two together. Yeah.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
so it's,
Oh, I've seen that in teenage girls.
yeah. And so you're
I've
like,
seen it.
oh, okay. And so
So-and-so had the flu and she lost 10 pounds. I'm like, oh, that's not really
I
good,
hear
but
talk about that. I hear it talk about that. And it's like, oh goodness. Well, and of course at the time I didn't understand some of the root issues. I just thought it was, oh, I just think I'm fat or whatever. And so I went to a psychologist at the time, and actually I got worse when I was seeing the psychologist. And I didn't understand any of the stuff that she was telling me. I didn't understand that when I went and threw up that I needed to go talk to my mother. I didn't understand this connection with her.
okay.
And so one day, well, because me and my mom do not get along for the most part. We get along as long as we don't spend too much time with each other. So it's and so there was this one day that I did, and I was like, okay, I'll do this. I want to get better. And and I'm like, okay, mom. And I talked for probably about 10 minutes. And this is what my mom said to me. She goes, what did you say? And I went, wow, I'm never going to talk to you again. That's actually what I just said. And so I went back into my room and I said, I need to figure this out because I'm getting worse. And I'm 16, 17 years old, and I don't know, nobody's explaining why I have to do this. I'm like, I know there has to be a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then the psychologist told me, she goes, well, this is like being an alcoholic. Once you're one, you're always one. And I stood up and I went, I think that's a load of crap. I'm sure the F word came out. And I said, I'm going to do this on my own. And I got on my bike and I rode home, and I did. I sat there and went, okay,
interesting.
I'm 17. I don't know what's going on. What can I do? And I'd be like, okay, oh, I'm bored. Okay. That's a good way. Here's a good place to start for nobody who if you don't know anything. And I'm like, well, this is when acrylic nails were becoming popular. I bought all this stuff. And when I thought I wanted to eat a bunch of food and go throw up, I was like, I'm going to go do my nails. It took me a couple hours. And it distracted me long enough. I completely forgot about binging and then throwing it all back up.
You switched your focus.
It switched, and boy, that was magical for me. But again, I'm 16, 17. I had to go, I have to figure this out on my own because I can tell that I'm not getting good advice,
Right.
And I did. It took me a year. And as far as overeating, that just stopped. I just started, I had always worked out. I did short-term bulimia workout type of problem, where both of those kind of fused into each other. But then I caught myself on that and stopped the over-exercise, in addition. And again, I had to just keep distracting myself. And it wasn't until, oh gosh, and I used to compare myself to my friend Terry all the time, which was just ridiculous. Because, okay, so for the viewers or the listeners, I'm 5'2". Okay.
You're a tiny little thing.
Terry is 5'11".
Wow.
There's no reason for me to compare my body to her.
Right.
I have curves. I'm not overweight, but I'm curvy, and she's shaped like a boy. Completely two different body types.
Right.
And I used to compare myself to her all the time. I just kind of went, that's ridiculous.
Oh, I think that's the young mind, though.
It is, and we all do it, and we're all getting I think it's obviously worse, I think, because of social media, because now it's even more in our face than it was when
so many filters. There's filters and manipulation.
And until I started to go to the Czech Institute and then started to work with John McMullen on emotional healing, that I really started to understand what the root cause of that was.
Yeah.
And it really
could that have been just the understanding of your body mechanics, like how awesome the body is.
Yeah.
And once you have an appreciation for the awesomeness of your body and how it functions for you every day,
Oh
um,
yeah.
that can bring in a whole new perspective for you.
It can. It can. And when I was reading the list of things that could happen to me if I stayed bulimic, and death was one of them, I went,
Yes.
whoa.
Right.
Well, okay. And oddly, I had to read this from a pamphlet versus the person I was actually to go trying to get help from. Now, there's plenty of phenomenal people out there who are psychologists and psychiatrists
Mhm.
who work in town. I just happen to not have
Do it
one.
that way. Yeah,
But people need to know it is within them. It is within them.
absolutely.
It totally is. It's
Absolutely.
the very mindset and characteristics that got you into that addiction, and it was an addiction in the first place, so the very ones that will get you out of it is just shifting the mindset. So it's shifting focus.
Absolutely. Just
Yeah.
like you shifted to the nails, you just
Yep.
changed your focus, and that can be so powerful. Just changing the way you look at your body. If you look at your body as an awesome machine that shows up for you every single day,
Yep.
then you have a hard time hating on it.
Yeah, because you can be thin and hate yourself. You can be
Yeah.
fat and hate
Oh,
yourself, and you can be
yeah.
fat, lose 50 pounds, and still hate yourself. Because that's not the root problem. It's simply the symptom.
Right.
And while you're on the journey of losing the weight, um, that hopefully somebody will help you with that.
Yeah.
Like, I can help. There's lots of people that can help. This is actually why people who have gone on to The Biggest Loser, is that show
Yes.
still even on?
I
I
have
can't.
no idea. I don't watch
Um,
TV.
most of those people have put all that weight back on.
Right. Because they have not fixed the underlying problem.
Exactly.
Which is
It's
exactly, this is another thing with the weight loss surgeries. They're also really difficult to maintain because there's internal work that needs to be done. There's
yes.
internal work. There's mental shifts that need to be done in order to maintain a healthy weight, and and you have to change the way
Yeah,
you're
it's
looking
like,
at it.
why do you feel that you're not enough?
Right.
What was the situation that you're thinking of right now that drove you into thinking you're not enough, and then you feel you're not enough, and now you hate yourself
Right.
because you weren't enough to control the other person,
Right.
and now here we go. Yeah.
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 I know. And, particularly I think women are so hard on their bodies. And an experience that I had two things really that really helped me develop a better body image. One was having a daughter.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, just looking at her and seeing there's obviously traces of me in her. How could I possibly judge her so harshly? I would
Yeah, no kidding.
never, I
Yeah.
would never judge her like that. She is
Then how can
absolutely
you judge you so
perfect
harshly
to
then?
me, right? So
Yeah.
how can I then be this hard on myself? Second thing was when my mom passed away, I am my mother's daughter. I have the same body as my mom, and now she's gone, but I am still here with
Yeah.
her body.
Yeah.
So those two things gave me a much deeper appreciation for my body. And so if you can shift your thinking from beating yourself up, my legs aren't long enough, this and all these different,
I'm not
records. I'm
5'10".
not 5'11".
I
Yeah,
will
all
never.
these different records you've been playing in your head to,
Mhm.
you know, I do have my mom's legs, and thank God I do, because she's not here anymore. But I still get to walk in these legs.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
can switch the way you feel about your body immediately.
Yes, when I went through Chase Life, which was about personal development, that was actually one of the things that we had to do, is when we were writing out our values and such, we in our conscious beliefs and unconscious stuff, we went into things that we liked about our body, and
Yeah.
it was like, oh, I love how strong my calves are, so I can come up on my tippy toes or whatever.
Right.
It's just, and it starts to go, oh, yeah, start looking at the things that you
Yeah.
really like. I mean, it's so easy to look at a picture. I mean, I do it. Everybody does it. And
Yeah.
immediately,
Immediately look at the negative.
I want to go there. And I went, what? Hang on a second. Of course, there's nothing I can do about that. Let's look at what's good with the picture. And is this a picture I want to use or
Yeah.
whatever and stuff. And some of the pictures I think I'm not overly excited about, people love because they're looking at all the good stuff. And then I'm like,
and we're looking at the bad. We're looking at what we think is bad.
Yeah. And
with
it's
that filter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's changing the filter. It's a big journey, and
it is a big journey. It is a big journey.
It's so rewarding. It's so rewarding.
It is. It's freeing. Like I feel so much more comfortable now than I did in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just like, yeah. And it's like on everything that I do. I don't run my yoga studio like everybody else does. Good.
Right. Yeah.
Good. Because I just, this is who I am. And if you like that, come to my studio. If you don't, that's okay.
Exactly. Oh, I love it. I love it. And I love everything that you've shared here today. Where can people find you, Christi?
LovelandYogaCoreFitness.com is my website. And then I'm on the corner of 3rd and Railroad in Loveland. And of course, I'm on Instagram as Loveland Yoga Core Fitness. Also, Christi K. Sullivan, where I'm trying to consolidate more of my instructional type videos, because my Loveland Yoga one, I kind of get I repost a lot of things and I try to do a lot of mindset posts, and so those videos get lost, so I'm kind of trying to consolidate.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend following Christi on Instagram, because you have some wonderful things I'm inspired by every day when I see your post. It's like, oh, that just filled my bucket a little bit more. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for being on the Naturally Inspired podcast today.
Thanks for having me again.
If the Naturally Inspired movement makes sense to you, let's do this together and transform the medical model and help people take charge of their health. Learn more about how you can join the Naturally Inspired movement by going to naturallyinspiredadvocate.com or call me at 970-475-4862.